Sup guys, this is going to be a bit of a controversial topic, I think, because Avrora isn't that popular and people are probably not going to like hearing that Avrora is, how should I put it, numerically superior to their favorite ship. But do take notice that I'm shining light on Avrora's potential and not necessarily trying to put down other ships. So if I say that she's stronger than a certain ship, that doesn't make that certain ship worse in any way. All of the raw footage of the tests I conducted for this video minus 2 Algerie META runs will be linked in the description with timestamps in each VOD's own description, so you can check those out if you want. I've had a little interest in Avrora's potential ever since she got her unique augment. Not that the augment itself made her a lot stronger, but more so reminded me that she exists. She kinda has a similar reputation to Prince Eugen, in that people think bringing her for her damage buff is not worth it, because her personal damage is so low. But with her augment, it's more or less about the same level as a Cleveland class cruiser, so not even close to the same level of dead weight as Eugen. As of late, I feel like the gap between the strongest Vanguard damage dealers such as Shima, Plymouth, Anshan, and the ships in the second tier such as Harbin and everyone else who deals around as much damage as Harbin is pretty big, which plays into Avrora's advantage. For example, let's say hypothetically you have two ships that deal more damage than Harbin. Let's say Harbin deals around 70% of their damage. Then Avrora's buff, increasing both of their damage by 35%, alone would contribute as much as Harbin. For a more practical example, take this very typical Vanguard composition, using A-Gear in the tank slot, Plymouth in the off-tank slot, and then sandwiching a damage dealer in the middle. If you think of bringing Harbin for that damage dealer role, nobody will look at you like you're crazy. And here is where the question arises. Is your damage dealer actually capable of dealing more damage than what Avrora would be able to do with her buff? I'm going to be calling this the Avrora test. And the test will get harder to pass the stronger the other two ships in your Vanguard are. In a lot of realistic situations, you can actually get away with using Plymouth as the tank, and putting someone who deals more damage than A-Gear in the off-tank position, increasing Avrora's value even further. But for now, I'm just going to go with this cookie-cutter Vanguard. For the auxiliaries, I kept it reasonable, with 2 evasion auxes on A-Gear and then at least putting a rudder on Plymouth, rather than skewing the results in Avrora's favor by stacking damage auxiliaries. I began by doing 10 runs with Harbin. By taking 35% of both A-Gear and Plymouth's damages, I can calculate how much Avrora's buff alone would provide. The difference between Harbin's damage and Avrora's buff was only 7k, meaning that if Avrora herself was able to deal more than 7k damage, then Harbin would get Avrora checked. Next, it was Avrora's turn. She's only level 120 without Oath, and for the sake of the test, I just gave her all plus 10 gold equipment. As you can see, her personal damage averaged out to be around 28k, so even without her unique augment, she would be able to deal more than 7k, which should have been quite obvious from the get-go. To make sure that the results were consistent, I divided Plymouth and A-Gear's damages by 1.35 to see what their averages would be without Avrora's buffs, and they were eerily close to the 10 runs with Harbin. Comparing the total output from Avrora and Harbin alone, we see that Avrora contributed about 35% more total damage, which results in about a 10% increase in total fleet damage. Luckily for Harbin, she does have her smokescreen ability, so since she provides something other than damage alone, she doesn't get fully Avrora checked. As previously mentioned, Avrora's value increases the stronger your other two Vanguards are. We can see this in action in Algerie META, where A-Gear and Plymouth do significantly more damage than other Vanguards. Using the Peter Strasser fleet that I showcased, I replaced Kazagumo with Harbin and it narrowly missed the one-shot. In the next 9 consecutive runs, I tried to fish for a fail with Avrora, again using just plus 10 gold equips, and it killed quite comfortably. The damage increase that she provides A-Gear and Plymouth is very easy to see. And finally, just for fun, I tested a few of the best damage dealers just to see if they can pass the Avrora test. Starting with Yudachi. Even with 2 Oxytorps, she failed the test, but it could have been a low roll, and she does have her own buffs for other torpedo ships in the Vanguard, so I wouldn't say that she is completely Avrora checked. Next is Shimakaze. She only dealt 75k, which is slightly lower than Avrora's average of nearly 80k, but this is probably one of the lowest rolls that Shimakaze will get, as I've done a lot of tests with her and she usually averages 90k with a double Oxytorp loadout. In this single run though, she did get Avrora checked. Next up is Kronstadt. I gave her 5% extra damage for missing Oath stats and then adjusted her damage for the level advantage she's missing from being level 120. She gets Avrora checked damage-wise, but she can be used as your main tank, so she still has a use. Next up is Drake. After roughly adjusting her damage for her level, Oath, and a plus 13 gun, she does pass the Avrora test. You can max her at your own discretion, but her variance is quite high due to CA guns being somewhat unreliable, so this could be a super high roll for all I know. And the final ship that I tested is San Francisco. While her own damage is a bit lower, she also has a small buff for your other 2 Vanguards, so looking at the total Vanguard damage, she does in fact pass the Avrora test. Anyway, that's it for this video. The 2 Avrora fans out there probably enjoyed this video a lot more than everyone else, but I hope that you found it at least interesting, and I'll see you in the next video.